Dr. Stephen Kaplan, a parapsychologist, vampirologist, demonologist, who founded the Parapsychology Institute of America in the 70s. We just reopened the Parapsychology Institute last year. We are in their infancy right now. Unfortunately, all my dad's files and the way he did things were from, the last ones were in '95. So computers, not so much. So everything is in cute little file cabinets, if you guys remember those things. So,
little drawers.
yeah, so we are just beginning. We have not even started, we've started taking applications for cases, but we haven't even started going out on them. I'm so sorry, I'm such a mess.
It's Sunday, last day of the con.
Cards.
Anymore.
Hi. Yes, I have cards. No, totally. Yeah, we do have a website, it's on the card. Again, it's completely in its infancy. I'll find more. Yeah, if you go to the website and you see a cheesy logo and it looks like myspace.com kind of thing, it's just because we had technical difficulties with our web designer, and we're actually looking if anybody does some awesome HTML work and wants to get involved in really cool ones. Basically what we do is we're paranormal investigators. How many of you have seen the shows Taps and Ghost Hunters and Oh My God, It's a Ghost, or whatever it's called? All those things. Okay. How many of you think those shows are totally awesomely real? Thank you. I have another good class. They are absolutely not. Everything you see on TV is exactly what I just said, TV. I think the realest thing about those shows is their equipment, and that's about it.
Really?
Yeah, it's
A machine that actually can say what the spirit's saying? Come on, that's
no, not that. I mean like their EVPs, they're the things that measure temperatures, that's
okay,
about it.
Yeah.
The places they go to, could or couldn't, I'm not saying that the places they go to are absolutely not haunted. I'm saying that this is a TV show. Everybody always comes up to ask us, oh yeah, like Taps and stuff. I was actually really good friends when Taps started and they just got on TV. I was really good friends with somebody who worked with them.
So what's in there?
Who ended up quitting because they refused to
Yeah, they said
make up garbage and sell it to the public as real. Investigating is not as awesomely exciting as it is on TV. You don't go into every place and see floating things and slime around. It's not, absolutely not like that. It's a lot of sitting and waiting, and it's mostly investigating. You have to rule out
well, until then, I'll get up.
everything that you have to come to the point that this is unexplained. So you have to look for every other answer you can so that it's unexplained. What the ghost hunters on TV do is go in with lots of excitement, and they say, we are going to find a ghost over there, and there's a ghost right now. The odds of them having the paranormal activity that they do, the amount of time that they do, are completely ridiculous. Most of the places you go into, you'd be lucky if you heard or saw something, and you'd be really lucky if you caught it on tape. But in order to make a TV series work, would you watch a show that where two guys sat in a room overnight and went, well, I don't see anything. So,
You can get out of that.
right, so,
It's called good editors.
right, exactly, right. But I mean, maybe you might go to a house and take 5 hours to film where a cabinet door used to swing open and you won't see it. It doesn't even mean necessarily that nothing happened. It just means while you were there, you didn't observe anything. Most of what we do is people write to us and say, you should check this out, or I have a story to tell you, and we will go and we will investigate all the possibilities of what could have caused that. You tell me your lights flickered. How good is your electric? How old is this house? A lot of what we do is just process of elimination, figuring out what it couldn't have been, because that's the only way to get to, well then nothing explains this. There are some big places. How many of you have been to Kings Park site? I have to ask that because I did too. I highly don't recommend it.
Yeah, because some kids got stuck in there and had to go to the cops.
Yeah, how many of you have totally legally got into Kings Park? Really?
Yeah.
I've never
Legally.
Oh, legally? Legally. No. How many of you crawled through that side window?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yay!
Not actually in the
No, I
building.
haven't been backwards, but I do not recommend that because of the asbestos and because there's copper piping in the walls that they used to use, and copper is an all-time high. So people are taking sledgehammers and ripping the copper out of the walls, and those walls will collapse. And I have a friend who does photography of abandoned buildings. His name is Adam Twig. I love his work. And he fell through a couple of floors. And he still won't stop, so I don't advocate that, but those places are just a mess. But I will say this, it is better to ask for forgiveness than permission when ghost hunting. And I'm not saying anything or advocating anything, but it's really hard for you to go to any place, like someone who would own Kings Park site, the people that are trying to sell it, they want to put a hotel there, which I think would be great. Imagine that hotel.
You want the hotel on that?
Right, I would stay there. But nobody wants the place, because to tear down that building and do the cleanup would just be ridiculous, and there's so much land. So, but for me to go to those people trying to sell this building and be like, I would like to go in and investigate if there's paranormal activity, especially with the stigma with the who's seen paranormal activity. Yeah. Especially with the stigma with all that nonsense going on, they'd be like, you're out of your mind. No. With that said, I really don't like going into places that I'm not supposed to be in, and I don't usually, with the exception of like a graveyard at night, and very quietly and respectfully. That's the other half of this. There's a lot of people who, let's go to Mary's grave. Who's heard of Mary's grave, and who's tried to find it?
Which one?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful point.
They're
If
everywhere.
anybody has any questions, just raise your hand. Yeah, there's Mary's graves all over the country.
Yep.
All over the world. Sweet Hollow Road. A cow
Yeah.
pulls you
He's
over.
gonna
There's a
answer you
hole
about
in his
that.
The
head.
devil's path.
Yeah, there's so many of those all over
And
the
Mount
island.
Misery.
Mount Misery. There's so many. I mean, the only one is Mary's grave. There was a, what was her name? Resurrection Mary. There is supposed to
That's
be
in
one
Chicago.
place. Yeah, in Chicago. That there is that one place. On Long Island, I think the most famous. Who has heard of the Amityville House?
Oh, yeah.
Who thinks it's haunted? It's okay if you do. Okay, no.
It
My
might
father
have
wrote a
some, I
book
heard that
called-
they
Yes.
had a recent, I'm sorry,
No, it's fine. I'm not.
recent thing
Of
on
course not.
Chiller, and they were investigating,
Yeah.
and they were saying that the father might have been dabbling in the occult, and it
Oh,
might
at
have,
Amityville?
right, and
Yes.
it might have
Yes.
activated
He
the,
actually was
spirits
having
around there.
a nervous breakdown. There's a new documentary coming out. The first part is out right now. It's called Shattered Hopes by Ryan Katzenbach. You might have heard it on the news recently because they recovered a pistol that was actually the second murder weapon. Long story short in the case.
really?
They
thought it was
believe there was a
shotgun
second
blast.
person involved. They don't believe that Ronnie DeVeo did it himself.
Wow.
They get help. There were 2 different bullets. There was a pistol holder. They got his rifle and all his stuff, but there was a pillowcase and a trash can by the lake, by the water, right? But it's waterfront property, and a pistol holder, but no pistol. And Suffolk police, being the wonderful, generous people they are, said, "No, it's good. Case closed. No pistol," which he just recovered this summer after 40 years. 40 years. He had a dive team of his own money for his documentary. He said, I can't leave that open. He wanted to answer everybody's questions because people are when people get into this case, they're crazy about it.
The next part should be out soon.
It should be out soon. It's a 3-part. It's Shattered Hopes. Yes.
And also, the house is harder to find now because they redid it.
Yes, it is. And
Change
I'll
the address.
explain that
And
in
the
a minute, too.
address is different.
It's not on Ocean. It's on Ocean Avenue.
It's
but
even
not
hard
the
to
same
find the people who live there because they changed their names.
The only thing is, I know,
You have.
Really?
I know which
How did you
houses,
get
I
in
know
it?
someone that knows
My,
them.
Yeah.
it changed ownership so many times.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful
the
house.
owners that sold it, I think, hello, the owners that sold it last year had a yard sale. And they made so much money, I can't even tell you. Because they just opened their door, and instead of moving their stuff, they opened their door, they had a line around the block, people would come in, I got the Amityville toaster, and like, I got the Amityville toilet paper, like they just sold
I got
everything
a
in their
great
house.
sleeve.
As seen in Amityville, and people just paid anything just to get into the house, but no.
If she has got a bow and arrow, I got it.
The case itself, if you look into the murder, is so much more interesting. He didn't dabble in the occult. He was actually crazy religious. He took religious
That's what I heard.
journeys to Rome and Italy. He had a family priest that he ended up flying from someplace to live with him. No, he just had a complete.
Well,
The
that's
father just had a.
This is what the son said
Yeah.
about,
It's such a complicated. I won't go into it because it's more.
well, yeah, I mean, that's what they,
But,
I
my
got
father's
from the
book, The
horse's
Amityville
mouth,
Heart
yeah.
Conspiracy, touched on that, but that's years ago. This new documentary will explain it, but
They did say
it
they
is
were very
not
religious people, yeah.
haunted to when you're investigating, I'll never say something is 100% not haunted. Never. Because just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I can usually say 99%, no, this isn't haunted. There's no Sweet Hollow Road, the cop didn't pull you over. Like, I know the thing is you're supposed to park your car and put it in neutral and put baby powder on the bumper, and then the car moves and handprints appear. First of all, at one point you opened your trunk. You have oils on your fingers and you just put powder on it. Congratulations. 2, it's on an incline, your car moves because it's a neutral. Congratulations. But I mean, if people are bored. Physics, right. That's a lot of
But it
what we
makes
do.
it such a great story.
Yeah,
Great
but,
story.
It's still something fun for teenagers.
Right.
They have the munchies. But yeah, a lot of what we do is just going in and saying, this is what it could be. And that entails a lot. That entails who is making the claim and where is it. If I go into a house where the lights are flickering and it's a really old house and no one's had an electrician over in years, I can't say 100%, but I can say you probably have bad wiring. And until you had an electrician over, I can't tell you, until you tried to fix the problem yourself, I can't tell you that's abnormal to have bad wiring in an old house, but I can say 99% I'm pretty sure nothing happened. I would never say 100% because just because we weren't there when it happened, unfortunately, and I'm pretty sure everybody in the world knows this, about 90% of higher of the people you talk to will be liars. Complete liars. They will be the people that saw the ghost. They were right in my kitchen, they made me a sandwich. Come over to my house and see it. Big problem with the age of technology. You've got to be really careful. People know everything about you. So never go investigate alone. Ever. We're still trying to get a team if you're interested. Take a card if you don't have a card. I think I have more. Sign up, get involved. We're looking for a better team. If you want to make a team, totally easy to do that. You need one person who's a leader. They're just in charge of getting stuff together. One person to help the leader when she loses her freaking mind. The things that my dad liked to have in this group, and I still stick with this, we're an old school group. We do not have big old equipment because, to me, I can walk in a room and I can tell you if a spot is really cold. I can, all by myself. And if it's 30 degrees Celsius, the only thing that tells me is this spot in this room is 30 degrees Celsius. What does that prove to me? I mean, I can tell you there's a cold spot, and that would be interesting, but the amount of degrees and everything, I think all that equipment is just really flashy, really expensive, and I think the only thing we'd be really interested in, we're looking into like the electric stuff, to see electric waves in the air. But in an age of Wi-Fi and technology, who here has a cell phone in your pocket? Who here has the internet? Who has Wi-Fi in their house? So how many signals do you think there are?
Right.
So if I pick up an electric signal in your house, oh, there's some electricity here. Well, how many of you have cell phones and Wi-Fi and everything running your house at the same time? So we don't really use, we do use old school stuff. We have a big old, in fact I just bought it, we had a tape recorder, we all have like recorders on our phone, but I bought the old with the microphone, with the little thing called the cassette tape. I bought one of them, and we record everything. We record it, we videotape it, I tell you. We take pictures. How many of you have taken pictures of orbs before?
It's called
like
dust.
little balls of light. Those can be anything. Dust on the lens, moisture in the air, the weather, reflecting off something. I just had someone in my last class say that they went on a ghost tour, and someone said, this is the lake and where all these people drowned. Take a picture and you'll see orbs. You're taking a picture of water. It's sunny! Look, an orb! Like someone splashing the camera. It's amazing!
Especially early in the morning.
There are orbs that I've seen that are really interesting, really weird. Like a picture of a black desk where there shouldn't be any, not a shiny one, but a picture of something that there's nothing reflective. It wasn't indoors, there was no flash, and there's been just something weird there. Right, those are really interesting, but again, the good news is we switched from film to digital, so you don't have to worry about abnormalities in the film or developing chemicals or anything like that. But the bad news is you now have it on camera and you have digital issues, and God knows how you can, I mean, with film you can see if you get screwed up. With a digital camera, I don't know, something malfunctioned. So taking pictures is, again, none of this is an exact science. I could never go to a case and leave, just as much as I can't say nothing happened 99, I can't leave and say, you absolutely have a ghost. And we do not exorcise ghosts. We do not, well, he might. He's with the Long Island Ghostbusters. They're a charity organization, actually. But it's besides the point. We don't go in. If you have a ghost in your house and you really want to get rid of it, probably ask it nicely to leave. That has been the most, every time I've heard that story, that seems to work really nicely. Hey, you're dead, can you let go? It's like creepy. That works. Yeah, we don't come in with holy water. God, evil spirits! I mean, I would do it sounds like funny, but, I also, if anybody has any questions, so we basically, with your group, your basic group, you get a leader, you get somebody to help that leader organize things and get a group together. Every group needs some key people. A skeptic is, to me, the most important person to have in a group. Skeptic is somebody who doesn't believe in anything. I like atheists, they work really well for that. And they're really good people. And that skeptic will go into everything saying this is bullshit. And that way, if you prove anything to that person, you have proved something to the hardest person to prove it to. Because if I have somebody who doesn't believe in anything and they think they saw something, that's pretty impressive. Because they walked in there saying, I don't even believe in any of this nonsense. So, I also like to have a sensitive, somebody who's just really open to things. Legitimate sensitives are hard to find. There's a lot of people that are overly emotional and not sensitive. People that are like, there's a ghost, there's one over there, there's one talking to me, and the men that talk in my head said there's lots of ghosts. But a sensitive would be somebody who's open, who maybe has a psychic ability, who maybe feels places. How many of you that have been to Kings Park felt a weird feeling? Or even have driven by and been like, well, that place is bad. Yeah, that might be sensitives. Not to mention if you know the history, I mean ice baths and lobotomies and old school mental hospital tortures, that's pretty freaky that happened there to begin with. And a lot of times we feel like places have fingerprints, emotional fingerprints, so to speak, where if something traumatic happened, the negative energy or whatever you want to call it affected that place. That place also is a giant looming dark building that's abandoned. I mean, if it was a lit up hotel and it still had that feeling, I might be more interested. Does it feel creepy? Yeah. Do giant abandoned psych hospitals usually feel creepy? I wouldn't have my party there. Actually, I would have my party there. But yeah, no, a skeptic and a sensitive, really important. My favorite, a magician. Really hard to find because it's a dying art. But magician will tell you how somebody's pulling something off really fast. They'd be like, look, it's floating. They'd be like, no, it's not. Look at the string. There it goes. Like, magician's great. They know how to trick people. So they know when you're being tricked. A really hard one to find. How many people have heard of the amazing Kreskin? That's a really, wow, yay! We just saw him at Theater 3. He's a graceful 70 years old. He's a mentalist, not a hypnotist, not a psychic, and he's very touchy about that. He is a mentalist, but he is incredible. He is the world's best mentalist. And just quickly, while we were there, he had everybody, this is Theater 3 is a pretty big audience, what, 100 and something people maybe?
Oh, down in Port?
150 people?
Yeah,
Yes.
down Port side.
A lot of people. Everybody in the audience had a piece of paper and a pencil, wrote down 3 important things, like a date, or a place, or anything. Put them in sealed envelopes, licked them, sealed them, put them on stage. Later in the show, he came out to the audience and was like, somebody here's from China. They just got back from China. Their mom's name is Lauren. Someone would stand up and he'd say everything they wrote on the paper. And he did it for like an hour with everybody. And me being on the skeptic side actually got called up. He said, open this book, pick out any word you want, and he knew the word I picked out. Picked out television. I figured a long word would be like tougher to pick, and he knew it. And he can do that mentally. That's just mentalist. A mentalist can read body language, they can read facial expressions, tone of voice, all those things, and they can tell you things. That saves a lot of time, because a lot of people just want to be involved in a cool ghost experiment or whatever. They will call you over to look at their swinging cabinets. And that's rough. Never go alone though, as I'm saying again, because this is an interesting business where you have to be open to things. So it takes all walks of life, I'll say, but with that said, funny side story, my dad was very naive, as this was the age before technology too, and he had a call from a coven of witches, and we investigate everything, claims of all strange and paranormal. And we had a coven of witches that said they had powers, and they said, come investigate, my dad, yeah, come investigate our coven, you know, we meet in the woods, we have these rituals and strange things happen. He said, absolutely, okay. They said, oh, but it's a religious ceremony, so come alone. And he went, okay, because he was very sweet and naive. And he brought my mom, and they were driving there, and someone stopped them up a dirt road. One of the witches had broken from her coven and said, you probably don't want to do this, they're having a sacrifice day. You should go. And they left. So people will, there are bad people out there. Yes.
And Satan's Trails in Mount Sinai.
Oh yeah, oh my goodness. There are so
me and
many
20
places.
of my friends. Okay.
Did you? Yeah. But see, that's another thing. Who would go out and look for that place and not want to get scared? How many people like to get scared? Like horror movies, scary movies, right? How many people have a really hard time getting scared? Yeah. So I mean, like,
Oh,
if
well.
I hear about a cop pulling me over with a bullet hole in the back of his head, that sounds really cool because that would take so much to show that to me. I talk about dressing up just as a cop and just go scaring people because we're wanters too. But I mean, there's two reasons people love the paranormal. It's one, it's really interesting, it's exciting to something that isn't there, and it's investigating, which is so much fun. And two, it's the life after death question that is just so human. Is
Survival after death. Yeah.
right. That's a very comforting fact to a lot of people. Yeah.
Do you believe in psychics?
I do, but actually one of the things we're working on right now is how many of you have seen a ridiculous amount of psychic shops all over the place on Long Island, and including like getting worse. Many years ago I went to a psychic that had opened in my town, and I paid her money because I just wanted to harass her.
Sounds a little like the opposite.
No, I did, and I said, yeah. And oh, yours is even better. He went in to do the same thing to somebody and was like, yeah, you know, I just lost somebody, my mother or whatever it was. And then, oh, yes, listen, your mother is okay. Because how many dead relatives come through and say, I am terrible, I am burning alive, I am in hell, I'm at Dante's level. They all come home and they're okay and they love you, which is weird. Some of my relatives would come over and be like, what are you doing?
The question is, how many people have lost somebody?
Yeah, anybody lose somebody in their life?
Somebody important?
Oh my goodness, do they have legs, eyes? Yeah.
Well, they'll say they're
I
okay.
do believe in
and they're doing
psychics.
well.
It's just there's so many crackpots.
How
Yes.
do you determine if somebody's doing a cold reading and really good at it, or if they really do have any ability at all?
So tough. I would love a mentalist because they would be able to tell body
Right.
language lying. So much is it psychology, but he went in and said, my mother passed. She contacted his mother. She was in a safe place. He then had his friend call and pretend he was his mother and say, hold on, Mom, I'll be home soon. And went, you're a big fat liar, and he left. His mother is safe and sound. So people will do that. But if you feed them information, which a lot of people do, most people go to psychics because they're either have nowhere else to go, they've exhausted everything,
Right.
or they miss somebody so badly that they're grieving, and they're emotional. And they will go in there emotional, and they will take one look at you and go, ooh, you were in a bad way. Do you have a wallet?
One of the best tricks to do too with a psychic is if you walk in with your sister. Walk in like this, you sit down, and all of a sudden they'll go, she's your soulmate. That's pretty scary. We're related.
That's a good one, yeah. If you ever go to Atlantic City, the whole boardwalk is like psychics.
Really?
And I did that once. I went with a friend of mine that was incredibly gay. But we walked up holding hands like that. We were like, so are we going to last? And they're like, oh, forever. And I was like, that's amazing. You turned him straight with your reading. So there are a lot of really, I have a friend of the family that's a psychic, and that's legitimate, but that's why he doesn't do parlor tricks, as I call them. How many people have heard of John Edwards? How many people haven't heard of him lately? It's because what happens when you actually have an ability, which he started out, I believe, having a really good ability, you burn out being like that, doing it over and over again for money and profit. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe the same thing that gave you the gift takes it away. I don't know if you see pictures of him, his hair's all gray, he looks kind of like zombie-like.
Was it the Crypt Keeper?
Yeah, he's burned himself out.
Wow.
And you know what, he started legitimately doing stuff, he had a gift as a kid. They might start off doing something, but the reading would be like, somebody's coming through and they're saying something, and unless you tell me something really weird, like, remember that chicken McNugget that looked like a dinosaur? Like, something weird. They're always going to tell you the same things they say at funerals. Who's here had gone to a funeral of somebody and someone said, this person was an asshole? Like, they were a wonderful person, they were a great person, they were loved by so many. It's the same thing that psychics come through. They're in a better place, they love you, because they're trying to comfort you, because that's what life after death does. It comforts you, and they're making money off of your anguish. It's a really comforting thought to think there's something after this,
Yeah.
especially if this one isn't going so well. So, yes.
Have you seen the Long Island Medium?
Yes, I have. I had that in the last class, too. I do not know a lot about the Long Island Medium. I do know that she has a show, and that her nails always look fabulous.
That's what you said.
With that said, I had someone in my last class say that they ran into her and they knew so much. With that said, the person in my last class gives a lot away with her face. Like, she's like, yeah, my mother had just died, and I went up and said my mother had just died, and she talked to her. If you ever go to a psychic and you're ever doing anything like that, don't give anything away.
No to them.
Right,
Your name,
right.
that's it. When they ask you
Let them
something too
speak.
and they search your answer for their face for an answer, like, did you lose an older man? And they do one of these. Stone face, if you can, poker face, because they will read you and they'll just keep going. That's important with an investigation too. I like to go in not knowing anything about anything. I like when I have an application and you want us to investigate, I want you to say, something strange happened in my basement. Because if something strange happened in the basement, I can go and see what's in the basement. If everybody, and it's not even your fault, just if you have a mental idea of what you're looking for, you might be looking for it and find it. Yeah, consciously. So if I go in knowing, there was a case my dad did where everybody kept smelling chocolate. So when we used to make chocolate cake, she passed away. The whole house always smelled like chocolate, no matter what they did. Really weird. He didn't tell his team that because he didn't want them going in going, I smell it too! Which happens. It's a mob mentality. It takes over. Not even if you're intentionally doing it. What they do is, and what we will do, is you walk in a room and you sit in the room and you say, okay, I feel something in here or see something or something has occurred. I've made an observation, that's what you say. I've made an observation, you hand out pieces of white paper. If you made an observation, write down what you saw, smelled, anything, and they fold up the paper and they give it to somebody. And then you open the papers. That way it can't be like, does everybody see the ghost? Yeah, he's got a hat, yeah, it's brown, and it picks up like that. It's everybody, and then everybody in that case smelled chocolate and stuff like that. Everybody in one case where a little boy had passed away heard a ball bouncing, and they checked the house. There wasn't any kids in it or anything. But it's so much more impressive to me when everybody writes down the same thing without knowing what everybody said, as opposed to everybody going, totally, I totally saw that. We did. We all saw that. Yes?
I was wondering, what do you think about like demons and stuff?
Demonology. How many of you have heard of the Warrens? Just curious? Okay.
Was it that one with the, based on,
They did all
that
the
movie?
Haunting in Connecticut nonsense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought of.
That. Kind of
I'm not sure I believe in possession. I think possession gets really religious, and I try not to get religion into science because they don't go together very well.
Yeah.
They don't play well with others. With that said, somebody asked me in my last class, what do you think about religion and investigating it? And I'm your beliefs may affect it. If you don't believe in an afterlife, you may be, no matter what you say, you have to be against your beliefs. But I don't believe any ghosts or anything can hurt you because I feel like we talk a lot about astral projection and things coming through but not being here. Like you can see them, but they're on a different plane of existence or whatever you want to call it. So I don't think that something that's just kind of here can harm you. I mean, the most poltergeist move things, but yes.
You mentioned astral projection. Did you ever see Insidious?
No, I didn't.
No.
Do
There's
you
like
see
something
my God.
astral projection.
My son, my 6-year-old made me sit through that. He wanted to watch.
Oh my god.
It's so-
I sat through Inception and that was it. People make me sit through things. It was a dream, oh god. No.
I liked the concept. The movie itself wasn't too great, but the astral projection concept.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, but I mean, demons would have to mean, you get into demons, you get into the possibility of hell, you get into religion. Do I think there's evil in the world? Absolutely. Do I think tragedy imprints better than happy things? Well, sure. How many birthday parties do you think you could have in a house and no one will haunt that because of a birthday party? But a murder happens there and you get a haunting. It's just, somebody asked me yesterday, do I think war affects paranormal? Absolutely. Because those are people leaving tragically and too soon. So any place you have war, that's
Civil
good.
War. Let's hear about the ghosts in the Civil War.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
The house in Port.
There is a house, how many been down Port by the water of Port Jefferson? Yeah, we are right now, we just started researching,
What's that? I never heard.
Port Jefferson is just a little town on the harbor.
I live in Port Jeff, but
You do,
yeah.
there is a house that used to be a farm, I think there's a LIPA building on it now. In 1800s, I think 1839, there was a family there where the guy felt like his wife was gonna leave and she was the rich one. He kinda had that inferior complex because she had the money from her previous marriage. And he ended up killing her and one of her 2 kids and running around, chasing them around the lawn with a smile, killing them. And this was a quiet little
What
town on
was
the
this? I'm
harbor.
sorry. What year did it happen?
1839, I think it was. We're just researching it now. I just found
Isn't
out
this
about
like an
it now.
old legend or something?
No, there's actual documentation, and they're actually buried in the Port Jeff.
Wasn't like one of the legends I
cemetery.
heard that the house was so evil it sank?
No,
That's
oh
what
god, that's
somebody-
Amity.
No, that's, yeah.
No, this actually, he ended up folding his clothes neatly and hanging himself in the barn. The thing that got paranormal about that was, well, I mean, it was a big,
I thought I heard about that.
you did, it was an old case. The thing that was they kept hearing the screams from the barn. But I mean, when you hear like reports like that back then, when it wasn't cool, as I say, that's impressive. So right now, we want to go to Lightbot and ask them, the workers at Lightbot, what's going on with their building. Because usually when you tear down something like that, I doubt there'd be anything. But I was really interested that like for years after, the people lived in that house and they heard screaming. The people in the house never heard a thing. Everybody else, neighbors and stuff like that, they heard it. But I just pointed out to him, we were just looking into this because we were just looking around the island of things that haven't been done yet. Because everything's so
Yeah.
researched to
Commercialized.
death. So we're trying to find things and, you know, 1 second. Guess what's by a harbor? Ships. And ships make noises all by themselves. And if you're sleeping at 2 a.m. and you hear a noise and you wake up, how do you know it's a scream or a boat or whatever, or somebody yelling at a dock, whatever?
Right.
So, I mean, I think it might have had something to do with it being right by the water.
There's
And
also a
people
train
unloading
station right
boats.
there.
And there's
Yeah,
well,
train
I don't know if the train station was back then, but I definitely know it was still a harbor, and you're yelling at people to dock boats and do things back then. A lot more old school boat stuff is a lot of yelling, like, don't crash! So, I mean, you had a question, yes?
Well, related to that, I was just going to ask, is there a situation that you sort of, an investigation that you would like to do, you know, like your dream investigation? Not
My
necessarily
dream
local,
would
but-
actually to be, get legitimately into Kings Park. Only because I loathe it and I love it and I hate it, because that's every teenager's ghost hunt on Long Island. It's Pilgrim Site, the tunnels, this, and I think it's mostly because they shut down that hospital, their budget got cut, their funding got cut, they closed the hospital that day. They sent half the patients on the streets without medication, without anything,
Terrible.
like in gowns.
There's two big
Wow,
ones
really?
that would be actually
Yeah.
is the myrtles I'm talking about.
That's why
Yeah.
The plantation that's
all the older
every month
generation
show
won't drive
does
through,
some
like,
kind of
the
special on the
gener-
myrtles.
Yeah.
It's
my father's
supposed to be
generation, a
one
lot of the
most
women won't drive
in
through there.
America. And it's actually
People
deep,
used to walk up to your car and like knock on the window.
And there's another one I would
If you're
love to check
driving
out
slow.
just for the sheer
Really?
Yeah.
And
the
they
Winchester
saw people in
Yeah.
gowns wandering the
And
streets.
Winchester
fact, my
House
mom
is
worked
horrendous.
She worked
kept
with the
building
Kings
and there's doors going in.
My grandmother
How was it?
It's crazy. It's
I wanna go! Science!
I will.
For science.
Crazy.
Oh,
no.
you go and take photos. A photo teacher of my best friend take a bad roll of film, like if you're using film,
Yeah.
put the good roll in your sock.
Really?
The cop isn't gonna check your sock for film.
I like that. I had been recording in Kings Park on a night vision camcorder with the little discs way back when, the CDs, the tiny mini DVDs. And the cop said, all right, I'll let you go. And I'm like, doing the crying thing, like, I just wanted to let
Took
you
the
go,
CD.
officer. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna let you go, but you're gonna delete that and you're never gonna come back. And I never have. I give my word and I keep to my word. So I hit finalize and I said, there it is deleted. There's the button, finalize, and I burned the disc, so, yeah. No, I would love to get in there because when they closed the hospital, they cut their funding with no warning and let patients out on the street in gowns. The rest of them they sent to overcrowded hospitals. But the thing is, they closed the hospital like that. Everything was in it. Decorations were up for Christmas, files in cabinets, keys. I had friends that went years and years ago when it first closed. A bunch of teens, they're older now, but they were teens when it closed. They went and got skeleton keys and stuff. The drawers are in the morgue. There's a bowling alley with pins. There's a theater with curtains. It's freaky because it just froze and stayed like that. And it was such a dark place. Psychiatry back then was just torture. It was just so ridiculous. Like, oh, she's sad. Drill a hole in her head. LL, like, just
Are we talking about like
disgusting.
one flew over the cuckoo's nest psychiatry?
Exactly, yeah. Pillow over the face psychiatry. I like to call it that.
Yeah,
Then you get to throw and watch.
my grandma was actually in Pilgrim State. She's still alive today, but she got electroshock treatments.
Yeah, and you know what? They still do electroshock
Yep.
treatments
Yeah.
in this country. I
Or
know
the-
somebody who it didn't
Different
zap
now.
her brain or fire her brain. She lost the memory of having kids and didn't know her kids at all. She didn't lose like functions like eating or sleeping, but she lost like every Christmas she ever had, stuff like that.
Oh wow.
But she wasn't depressed for a while. Then she got sad again because life is kind of depressing sometimes. And that's a whole nother psychiatric, let's make everybody happy with pills thing culture. But But yeah, so did anybody else have any questions too? Okay. All right, yeah, so what we go in, we basically go in, we want you to tell us as little as possible so that I can make my own, and then when we go home, we will research the hell out of you. And I say you, because you're the one making the claim. So if I was gonna present this to somebody and say, look at my findings, we did a case, we have these photos, we heard these sounds, they're on recording, and JoJo the Indian Circus Monkey made them, damn it. You know, like, if I have somebody who has a bad, and I'm not judging, but it has a bad psychiatric history, who isn't on any medication and is schizophrenic, and they heard something. Not that they didn't hear it at all, just that it's so much harder for me to prove, to show that they're telling the truth. So, there's so many factors to take in. There's location, there's who you're dealing with, and your group. And the more people you have in a group, like, I'm not saying 20 people, because then you just have a big unruly mob of people,
Yes.
like, look,
That is
ghosts,
my-
we're the ghost hunters, and I hate that term, ghost hunters, no offense. But I'm not hunting, catching, and killing, and getting a ghost taxidermied on my wall, but, difficult. But, I prefer investigating. But we don't just do ghosts. We do claims if there's a huge vampire subculture, and I'm not talking about the sparkly, shiny kind. I live the sparkly, shiny kind. Though I respect anybody who likes the sparkly, shiny kind, because I do like sparklies. I just don't like them on my vampires. It's amazing how vampires have become really big, but not vampires. Like, I don't know what to call what's really big right now. I have words for it, but I won't say them. The old school permission to enter. Oh, the sun's gonna kill me, not make me shine. That stuff is long gone. It's a different kind of vampire that's popular right now. But my dad did a vampire census for many years when he had it. There are so many, there are hundreds.
Sorry, what did your father do?
He was the parapsychologist, Dr. Stephen Kaplan. He started the PIA.
Which books did you write?
Thank you. You're at the Amityville Horror Conspiracy, Vampires Are, and Premature Gods. Which are
In Pursuit of Premature Gods and Contemporary Vampires,
You're
yes.
welcome. I don't plug things, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, he did vampire census. Most of the vampires were, would you believe it or not, California. Which is really sunny, I thought that was weird. But there are hundreds of vampires. Towards the end of the vampire census, I'd say 90% of them came from jails. And people who were like, yeah, I killed this person and drank their blood. So most of them are
We got that one
space
big case.
case.
The kid that killed the girl.
There's that one very famous case where the two Satanists, vampires, killed the girl's parents.
You're the ones from Florida.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
I
a
remember
huge,
that.
yeah,
he
they
had that
are.
he looked pretty sick with the long hair.
Yeah, they are sick puppies.
A
Oh, they
lot of
are.
them from that
But
time now. have
There
performed
are a lot of people that just live as vampires.
He called himself. He thought he was a reincarnated vampire from the 1500s or something.
And he thought she was coming with too, that's a long story. But there are people that live as vampires and they're not going around like attacking you. I knew a woman I'll call Misty. She lives as a vampire. There's a whole vampire club scene or whatever where they can meet, they network, they drink each other's blood. They do it very safely. Some of them work at blood banks, some of them do things not so legally. Most of them just do it as, there's a lot of very adult, there's a sexual nature to it too, is a big part of that. But they sleep in coffins. Misty had her own built coffin, size of your bed, very comfy, velvet line, very comfortable. She had it so that she can close it and still get air and breathe. She felt comfy sleeping in it. She had her teeth filed, her canines filed, so that they were fangs. You can get a dentist to do that cosmetically. I have a set of fangs that I made at I-CON one year. There was a guy who came every year and did fangs. He's not here right now. Very expensive to get a table at I-CON. But there are people that live very comfortably as vampires. There are people who take it too far, obviously like that couple. There are people that take it to a point where they don't go out in the sun. But there is something called myeloproliferative disorder. Yes. And that makes your gums shrink, your teeth appear bigger. You crave red meat because you're so anemic. And you're incredibly pale because you are deathly allergic to the sun. So that's like a vampire disorder. Just as much as, how many people have heard the werewolf boys? who
Right,
have
Mexico.
facial hair. They have sisters too. They look fabulous. They can't shave it. It'll hurt. They'll get rashes. It's terrible. They grow hair everywhere on their face. Thick fur, like fur. My dad did a show with Christina's show in Italy, I think, when we went to Rome with them. And they're really great guys, and their daughters have kids and stuff like that. I'm not sure if their kids have it, but it is genetic. And they don't live as werewolves, but they call themselves the werewolf boys because they're just covered. So we investigate a lot of things. We don't stick, ghosts are the big hot button and readily available. I rarely get people that are comfortable coming up and saying I'm a vampire, and they're not talking about Edward. So it's tough. So, but we'll investigate anything paranormal, not normal, unexplained. We looked into UFOs, that stuff. I won't go into too much. I'll listen to you if you say there's something implanted in your brain, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't see in your brain, so there's no way I could ever prove or disprove what you're saying. I will listen to your story about how you saw a UFO, but UFO just means unidentified flying object. So if I see a kite and I don't know what it is, that is now my UFO, because I didn't know what it was. And plus,
So he's a fake.
unless you're in the government, you know what planes they're flying and stuff like that. I don't know what planes you've got or ships you've got. I don't know what's yours and what's not. So airships and stuff like that, those claims were usually like, not much. There was a night where I saw 100 lights in the sky, all around Long Island, and I called the news, and their phone was swamped with all these lights in the sky. You'll hear a lot about that stuff too. There's lights over this place, or there was just a video of some news guy giving a thing, and there was a flash behind him, and it was caught on camera. But who the hell knows what that is? And that was something that happened, not something I can investigate. That was a moment that happened. It's gone. The video was the only thing I can investigate. So that's why we like places that we can go into, because places are there. And then we can go in. We like to go in during the day and check out a house. Like, the house is haunted. Okay, well, this is how it looks during the day, and this is stuff, and get a good look. And then we like to come back either at the time that it happened or at night, because places are different places at night. Shadows and things like that are different. So, yes.
Some of my friends and I, two of my friends and I actually went to Satan's Trails during the day and walked that, not the
It's actually
general
nice.
trail. We actually kind of went towards the water and into the woods more, and there was this huge rock there and it kind of looked like a sacrificial type of.
There are clearings, but there's three things to that. One, there is no way to know who put that there.
Yeah.
Because I have been known to hang out in the woods with my friends when I was younger and sit on rocks and make a fire and roast marshmallows, you know,
But
like
there was this huge
clearing.
rock
That's no
and.
place.
Well, two, there are so many covens of witches on Long Island. Legitimately, as pagans, as not like rituals like kill a bunny and drink its blood. Satanism and paganism get mixed up all the time too.
Right.
That can be teenagers, and that can be a pagan group having a wonderful spring celebration or winter solstice.
Yeah,
or
right
whatever.
now, starting, yeah.
So, I mean, if you came into the circle and there were like Blair Witch symbols everywhere, you'd obviously know it's kids. But that stuff is hard to investigate because there's nobody I can ask about. I can't ask a tree, what the hell happened here? Like, so it's tough to call on that stuff.
Pretty much. We've also had a few cryptozoology and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. I had a woman come up to me after the class yesterday, and she was a really nice woman, but she was trying to explain to me who would win the presidency, and that after that president there was nothing but a white wall. And
Basically the rebirth of humanity.
right, I'm only bringing that up because there are so many things involved with that's why it's parapsychology and not, my class isn't ghost hunting or something like that. I don't limit it. I just limit it to, I like explaining the unexplained. I like finding answers for things, and I love finding the truth. If you're into the truth and honesty, this is the business to be in.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because it's full of liars and cheats and thieves. Which is why it needs you. Which is why it needs people to debunk things. Which is why I hate the shows on TV. But no one would watch a show of 5 people sitting in a room going, it's on TV tonight. Huh? No. That's it. I mean, on that show, they're all, whoa, what was that sound? Oh, you know, and like someone kicking it. Who watches South Park? Who saw what they did to them and laughed hysterically? I mean, they get so scared. Oh, I'm so scared. And it's like, I've only been scared once in a house. And that's because a bat flew at my head. That was Kim's car. And it flew for me. And I was like, oh God!
What about the hotel?
Oh, I was scared once, you're right. I was upset. I wasn't scared, I was upset. I was in a hotel in Pennsylvania that has a lot of history. It was an old inn for gentlemen. I love saying that because there's a lot of those places. There's one in Port Jeff that has a sign on the side. This used to be an old inn and gentleman's club or something like that. I'm like, oh my God. Brothel, the word's brothel.
Well, the funny thing is, if you walk around in like old towns, you'll see little plaques explaining what certain buildings were,
Yeah.
and everybody just passes them by.
Yeah, they say them too. There's little things on buildings. It's fun. But I was in a hotel in Pennsylvania. I went down to
Where in
do
Pennsylvania,
something in the
sorry?
lobby. This was outside of Lancaster. I think I had just taken a Lancaster ghost tour. It's fun. They do lantern ghost tours and they tell stories. It's fun, but it's fun stuff. There's great folklore to it. I did one in Gettysburg too. They're a lot of fun. I was just in this little Pennsylvania, right outside Lancaster. And I went down to the lobby or something, and I was going back up these really. It was like not a lot of rooms. They had canopy beds, everything old school, very homey but creepy feel. I liked it, but it was cool. I was going up the stairs. Someone was, when someone's behind you, you hurry up because you're like, oh, now someone's behind me, and I got to run up the stairs. Same thing as like, like you feel somebody behind you. How many people have felt somebody behind them or have feelings but they haven't seen? My dad used to call that the fifth sense, the gaseous term. If you hold your hand right here and you're not touching your arm, can you feel it? You can feel like your arm here. Well, I felt that behind me, and when I got up the stairs, there was nobody behind me. That is the only thing that's ever freaked me out, just because it was me and I totally felt somebody behind me. That's the sense. I mean, how strong that is amazing. If you get bored later, have a friend, close your eyes, and have a friend just do this, and you will feel your friend there, which is odd because they're not touching you at all. They're here, and you can feel them. That's what we've called the gaseous term. That's like this area of you that's around you that you can somehow feel, but that doesn't really make any sense. It's not like I have nerves sticking out of my body. That makes no sense. So that's basically what I say you use to be, when sensitives are more open to that. It's just a feeling. Like a lot of ghost reports we get is, I felt somebody over my shoulder. I felt somebody behind me. Cold and hot is really interesting. I would love to scientifically try to explain why a ghost would be cold. I don't know. I've never understood what temperature has to do with it. I know it happens a lot, and there's a lot of claims of it. I just don't personally understand what that has to do with anything. Like, I don't know. Another thing we're really interested in is everybody wants to prove that there are ghosts or aren't ghosts. I would love to look into why the hell are they coming here.
That's the question. What are you going to prove?
Yeah, that's your bottom line. Figure out what you're going to prove.
Well, when you walk into any place that you're told is haunted, what are you going to prove?
Well, their claim's true or not, I suppose.
Nope. You're going to prove that there is nothing there. If you go in there and you say this place is haunted, you've already got in your brain saying that this place is haunted. You're going to see something. The wind. You got a draft in the house. It blew the door open. If there's a draft, it blew the paper bag floating in the air.
There's
That's why you're saying the skeptic is always the best to have.
Yep.
It is. With the mentalists and everything like that, there's something to be said for your emotional state as well. If you think real hard about somebody's voice you really want to hear, you could probably hear it in your head, at least what it sounds like. So if I go in there thinking real hard that I'm going to hear a bouncing ball, my brain knows what it's looking for. It is now set to listen for a bouncing ball. And every sound in that house will turn into a bouncing ball. Kind of like if you never heard a song before, you download the song, it's really cool, and you've never heard it before. You go to the store, and all of a sudden it's on the radio everywhere you go. Does that ever happen to everybody?
Yeah.
It's because your brain is in tune to it. It's suddenly been woken up to the idea of that song. So
Crazy.
if I go in and I'm in tune to, I'm expecting to smell chocolate. I use that as an example. My brain will be like, we want to smell chocolate, can we do that? Like, your brain is it's an amazing thing, and that's why a lot of this is psychology. I'd love to have a psychology major on the team. We're just getting a team together because we want all walks of life. Because if I have 5 of the same people, they're giving me 5 of the same opinions.
Whoops.
And whoopsie.
You got it.
She did it. Everybody look at her.
What if you're not expecting Like, I had an experience and I wasn't, like, can I share my experience?
Absolutely, no, please, if anybody has any,
You wanna
because
come
we're
on
good.
up?
So I had somebody, there's one grandfather, he passed away last year.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, and he helped me out with a lot of like money and like helping with my school funds and stuff like that. So I buried $1, or like I just went and
Oh,
I buried
like
$1.
thanks, yeah.
And then about like a few months later, I was having some trouble, and I'm a huge skeptic, and like I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
either way. And I was like, oh, you know, just in my mind, like, you know, could you like give me a sign to show me things are okay? And the next day, I got a $1 bill like in line with my name on it, and I was like,
You have told me the best story I've ever heard in a class, because I'll tell you something that I never share, and I'm not sharing. My dad passed away in 1995. I was only 7. He had a second massive heart attack that he's had. He was only 54, and it was 1 week before his book hit the stores too. I was 7, and since my dad was so into teaching about this, we contacted him constantly. And the way he contacted me was dollar bills. The first one was I was going on a school trip. I was mad. It was right after he passed, and I was wondering if he was going to be on the school trip with me. And my mom made change at the store to give me money for my field trip, and it said, "Good luck, Dad." And I have these dollars in my house. They're tangible, which is amazing. You can hold it. It says, "Good luck, Dad," on the dollar bill in Sharpie. Well, that's odd. Now somebody wrote that, obviously, but that's also going with fate and all these things. That happened for years after my dad passed away with dollar bills, just singles. I'd ask something and I'd get change back. One Halloween, we got something that said like "Trick or Treat, Dad" or something like that. I mean, I was very young, so I have all of them in a tin somewhere in my house. I just moved. Hell. But no, I got dollar bills. There's 2 sides to that. One, is it fate and serendipity, right place, right time, stuff like that? Or 2, is it possible for somebody from beyond the grave to orchestrate something to happen for you to get that $1? I think that's more of it is. I don't think a ghost came down and handed somebody $1. I think something cosmic happened that made you get that $1 when you needed it.
I wasn't looking for it. Like I was
That's
like, I'm looking for $1.
amazing too. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. I've had things like that. Weirdly enough, I communicate with my dad the most, or have back then. I don't do it that much now. With the radio. I know it sounds really weird, but music is a huge part of my life. And he had a favorite radio station, CBS FM. I don't even think it exists anymore, but one example, we were going to the beach as kids, and we always tried to talk to him, because he was supposed to come back and contact us like Houdini. And we said, "Hey, are you going to the beach with us today, Dad?" And we put on his favorite radio station, and we said, "The next song is the answer." We used to say that. And Down by the Boardwalk came on. And that's the kind of thing I do. Now, that song could have been gonna play no matter what question I asked. But was I in the right place at the right time? And was there a deeper meaning to that? So there's no way to investigate those things, but I love hearing those stories, because that's what opens my mind to thinking, wow, why did that happen like that? Like, of all the things that could have said, of all the things people write on dollar bills, and draw and do things. Does anybody else have any questions? Because I have 5 minutes to totally answer questions. Yes?
Can we get the exact address for that place in Port Jeff where the guy hung himself? And
I'm going to put it on the website, because
Okay.
I'm going to be getting a...
I mean, I live in Port Jeff, so I'm very good around the area, so...
I live right around Port Jeff, that's
If
why.
you guys didn't get business cards, let us know, and we can...
Or it's www.thestrangespace.org.
Is it near Main Street, or...?
It is, they said it is now, it was the family farm, it is the LIPA building. I don't know if
I think there's a
LIPA
LIPA
or something.
building
I've
there.
never seen a LIPA building, and I've been down
Yeah,
for
my
100
ex
miles.
actually, he did security over there.
He did. Do you know where it is at all?
It's kind of hard to get to. It's like one of the back little roads.
It used to be their farm. LIPA
Yeah.
bought the space for it, so.
But it's like a back road. They make it hard to find
I
on purpose.
literally just started looking, that's what I'm into right now, as our case right now.
Do you know what area
We
it's
just
in?
kind of want to go and be like,
It's kind of hard to explain like how to get to. It's been quite a few years since I've been there because he took me one night.
we're gonna look online. I was
Yeah.
trying to look online. It's just really hard to
It's
do.
hard
it.
to find.
Right.
A
Well,
lot
the
of
town.
my
I'm looking for ghosts. Ebony.
a lot of my friends and I used to hang out down Port all the time. It's been a long time since
I
I've
still
been there.
do.
Yeah, I
Port is
would, but they're
awesome.
all starting to become like 12 and 14-year-olds, and I'm like, I'm 26, I can't do that anymore.
Port is 2 different places. During the day, it is a nice family community, and during the night, it is an entire bar outside.
Right.
Yes,
Be very careful in Port.
but
Yeah, does anybody?
they
okay,
might
go ahead.
know. Like, exactly where it is.
We are working on it. I have everything typed up. I do not have a printer. I was gonna bring it. I do have the information. As soon as I get it in cognitive faculties, it'll be on the website. But yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
So, do you charge people to see their house?
Thank you for asking, because I completely said we are completely non-for-profit.
So you guys
We
have,
say for science. That's our motto.
so do you guys have like day jobs that fund this and stuff?
Oh yeah. He worked 49 hours last week. Didn't sleep much. Oh yeah. Yeah, we do. Oh yeah.
Vouch for that.
And I have a 3-year-old, so I do that a lot. Yeah, that's the other thing. We don't let anybody under 18 in the group because I don't need to watch people while I'm investigating. That's just it.
And also you don't wanna be responsible if something happens.
Absolutely. But I know some really wonderful younger people, and they'd be really helpful for the team when they're 18, and I can't get in trouble. So. Yes.
There's a place in Stony Brook, it's like a diner or something like that, or a restaurant. It's off of 25A.
Do you mean it looks like a castle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we were just talking about that
We were
yesterday.
just talking about that. I would love to get in there. That place is selling for a measly $500,000,
Mm-hmm.
and I would love to get in.
Where
There used to
is
be a restaurant, and before that it was
Um,
in where somebody was murdered. That's the only
well-
name about it, or something, right? Stabbed or something.
Yeah, Stab.
Katie's Bar is haunted. I have a friend that bartends there. That I've heard 100 stories of.
How about the
Very
Pizza
rich
Hut?
people.
The
The Pizza Hut that used to be a Jack in the Box where somebody was shot during a robbery. That's on Middle Country. I did have a friend say there's a frisky ghost in the bathroom. I've gotten some interesting stories. I have a friend, a very good friend, who swears that a ghost was in the restroom.
Well, there was a physical mist that came up from the toilet.
Yes,
he
he said
said
there was like a mist and it surrounded him through the toilet, and that was the end of him going to Pizza Hut. But I mean,
But maybe
I don't know what's going on in your toilet, so I'm not going to investigate it.
any experience.
A shitty job.
One of my best friends was part of Lippy Long Island Paranormal Investigation, and he has thus far gotten out of that. But he's had experiences, and he's got a nice photograph online. But I'll take a bullet for the man. But unless I have the experience, I can only go on hearsay.
Take everything everyone ever says in all aspects of your life with a grain of salt. Make your own opinions,
Yeah.
absolutely, with everything. What? Jason. This is Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hi. The vampire census, was that taken in the 70s?
Yeah, it hasn't been done in a long time.
You're gonna follow up on the
I am
cases,
trying to
right?
redo the vampire census, but
You're gonna
I'm probably gonna-
follow up. You're gonna call
end up
all
with
of
the
the people
priest
I'm
from the
gonna end
70s,
up
right?
with so many 14-year-old girls going, I am so a vampire! Where's Edward?
But I mean, you're gonna reinvestigate the original cases
I want
to
to open up all
see
my debts. You got
to see if they
files.
still feel like
I'd
they're
love to see through
vampires.
time, because people have changed ownership, stuff like that. I'd love to see if a house that was haunted with one person, if the people who probably didn't even know about the case back then still had things happen. So I'd like to follow up on his old cases, because I have the opportunity of having like 18 years now in between to see how time has affected paranormal.
What you need is
investigation.
volunteers to help you with that one.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, that's
That's why we're looking for. That's why we're putting together a team and just going over some cases and stuff.
I do not like Lippy. I don't know the people there, but they were pretty mean to me. They had some mean stuff about my dad, which is all over the internet. And I just don't think it's right when dead man can't defend himself
Yeah.
to attack him. Maybe his work, go for it. Anything he's ever said, go for it. But him himself, and
Yeah, that's bad.
That's wrong.
That's kind of messed up.
Lippy sells a lot of T-shirts. You guys get what I'm saying? There's a lot of really cool stuff they sell on their website. They're also an exclusive group that wanted me to totally be a part of them for a membership fee, monthly dues, and then I had one people call me up and say, we're a paranormal group and we're investigating, we're having a paranormal cruise, and for $150 you can come on the haunted paranormal cruise. There are so many people.
Who would want to go on a haunted cruise to begin with? Wouldn't that be a
Well, the
little...
cruise wasn't
You're in the
haunted,
middle
but
of
they were
nowhere.
paranormal investigators on a boat. It's fun, we're in the sun. And
Well, Queen Mary.
Yeah, right. Oh boy. No thanks. Yes.
What is the title of your father's book?
Well, my father's first book was Premature Gods, but there were only 30 copies of that in existence. They're on eBay right now. They're hanging.
We own most of
It's
them still.
self-published. Yeah. Vampires are, you can get on Amazon. I've never seen a penny from the sales of these books because the publishers all went bankrupt. And until they make back the money they spent on the books, I don't see it. So Amazon.com has been selling it too. There's a lot of nonsense, but I don't get a penny from it. But yeah, Amazon.com has Vampires Are. That's the vampire one. But the last one he wrote was the Amityville Horror Conspiracy. That is all about Amityville and his experience with. They called him up and said, "We want PIA to investigate." He said, "Absolutely, but whatever I find, I'm going to tell the truth." They went, "Never mind." And they got someone who could lie. And that's how that
Nice.
started. And he went, "Oh, no, you don't," because my dad got really angry when people lied to people. But that's about it. Does anybody have any other questions? Cool. All right, thank you guys for coming, and check out the website.